1850 715 815.
Hello, good afternoon, and you're very welcome to Liveline. And 51551 is our text number, and I suppose it is appropriate that the most recent tweet of the countless millions of tweets and comments and reflections and tributes to David Bowie came in the last few minutes, just 7 hours after he died. His death was announced, and that was from outer space, from Tim Peake, the British astronaut, and he tweeted, as most people have, how they will miss somebody who has such an influence on their lives musically and an art as well. He was primarily an artist, I think. Let us go to another great artist, Christy Dignam. Christy, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Joe.
How are you?
Not too bad. A bit of a chest infection at the moment.
Okay. When did you hear David's death?
My daughter rang me this morning about 8 o'clock, I think it was. It's very sad. Very, very sad.
So that brought you back to 87 in Slane.
That's right, yeah. When we signed with EMI, he was with EMI Records, so we said to our manager at the time, so listen, we don't care if you never get us another gig. Get us the Slane gig. We want to play with Bowie, so he got us the gig, and it was great. And I remember after the gig, we all went to the Pink Elephant. Do you remember the Pink Elephant?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
We all went in there, and he had two big Marines kind of guarding him, and Billy went to go over to get his autograph or something like that, to talk to him, and the guard stood up and kind of waved their fingers, kind of waved him away. So a couple of years later, he was playing the Point, and I met him, and I said to him, listen, a few years ago, I said, you really kind of upset me. I said, we have to be playing with you in Slane, and we went to get autographs off you after. One of the lads went to get an autograph off you, and your guards wouldn't let him near you. And he was saying that at that time, it was after Lennon had been shot and stuff, and him being an Englishman over here during all that, the trouble, and that was happening in the north and stuff like that. So he was a bit paranoid over here at the time, and that's why he had the guards with him, and he wouldn't let anybody near him,
And
interesting.
He was a great visitor to Ireland subsequently, 18 times, I think, after that. And I know his mother wasn't Irish, but her name, Peggy Bourne, she had Irish connections, apparently, going way back. How the words that have been used today, Christy, about David Bowie, the icon, the legend, the trailblazer, the forever changing, how would you identify him?
Well, he was just, to me, he was a true artist, a pioneer of music. He was part of the golden era of rock and roll, and there'll never be the likes of him again. Even today, you don't see superstars like David Bowie today. I suppose Bono would be fairly close to him, I suppose, but you don't really see stars of his quality. He kind of changed all it. You see, the Rolling Stones are still the same as they were, back in the 60s. Paul McCartney is more or less the same as he was, but Bowie changed all the time. He had all the different personas, and he always changed with the times. He was also the first to have a website. I don't know if you're aware of that.
I didn't know that. Yeah.
He was the first to develop a website, because Bowie, he didn't make a lot of money initially through his record sales, because a lot of people were influenced by him. He only had 2 million selling records up to back in the 90s or something like that. So then he started his website, and that's where he really made all his money then, through his website.
And his music now features
through the internet. Because he was saying when the internet came out first, he did an interview and says, there's this new thing out called the internet. He says, it's going to change everybody's lives and all this. And nobody knew what the internet was at the time. But he was very foresightful,
And everyone said he was. They would. What's the word? Watch out for Bowie's new album, because that would be an indication of new trends in music, rather than.
Absolutely. And he always kept up with trends. Like he brought out an album on Friday, which is really strange. Really ironic. His new album was released on Friday, Black Star. So even that, he uses new innovations in music even up to today.
And the track, isn't there a track that's on all over YouTube at the minute from that album, which now looks very, very poignant and indeed meaningful, and most people are taking it as an indication this was David Bowie's message on his final album, that he was seriously unwell. Stay with us, Christy, because he was in Ireland before Slane. And Christy, you remember, as I do, a programme on RTE in 1969. Christy, you were only 9 years of age, for God's sake, called Like Now, presented by Danny Hughes. Danny, good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Joe. Nice listening to Christy there. Sure, that lad was the only young lad.
I know. But I know you're on the programme recently. Little did we know that you were going to be talking about this episode. Tell us about, some people are saying it's the first public performance, first performance on television of Space Oddity by Bowie.
It might well be. David Bowie at the time in Ireland, 1969, was basically unknown, except by a few. Mm-hmm. But anyway, his management, or Bill Keating, Nuala Naughton, and there was a girl there, Olive Wrigley, contacted David Bowie's manager, or the manager contacted them about David going on the show.
Okay.
So he came over, and he went on like now. Now, Bill Keating wanted to do a production of it, and he got a thing called an Idaphore put up in the studio, which is basically a big screen, and it's you shoot from the back onto it, and it showed visions of Mars, etc. And Bowie sat on a swivel seat, and swung around, singing "Ground Control to Major Tom." And at the time, he had big head of curly blonde hair, and dressed in tight slacks, jeans or something. Very quiet, humble guy, and he was outside in the corridor of RTE, and he spoke to anybody who wanted to speak to him, and we wished him the best of luck. And I thought that was the last we'd ever hear of him, you know. So how wrong we were.
And we'll post a photograph, because we just found a photograph of that performance here in RTE in 1969, with yourself presenting Like Now, as it was called, Danny. And you're right, he has a fine, big... he's handsome and as
have you got the video of it?
No, I have a photograph of it.
Oh, right.
I don't know. Maybe there still is a video.
I doubt it. They wiped everything.
Wait and see. Well, let me bring it.
They're short of money then.
Now, Billy McGuinness, stay there, Danny. Billy McGuinness of Aslan. Billy, you remember that episode that Christy is talking about? You were the one that went up to the two Marines.
I did, yeah, I did. It was just, as Christy said, you know, it was a dream for us to play with Bowie, and to get the gig was just absolutely fantastic, because we were in doing the album, and I remember when we were on stage, we were told not to go near. There was like Bowie had a kind of a VIP part of the stage where he was going to perform on with his dancers, and we were told under no circumstances were we to go down at that part of the stage. Of course, me and Christy, our first big gig, we went straight over the barriers and straight down in front of the crowd. It was an absolutely fantastic gig, unbelievable, Joe. And to this day, when we're asked what was one of our favourite gigs of all time, it has to be Bowie at Slane. And he was such an influence on the band that when we recorded albums, when we used to release singles, Joe, we always put a Bowie cover if we could on the B-side. We put Rebel Rebel, we put Rock and Roll Suicide, we put 5 Years. He was just, I can't, you know, there was no other artist that influenced us as much as David Bowie.
Incredible.
Absolutely incredible. I mean, Mick Ronson, his guitarist, and Bowie was, I suppose, the Bono and the Edge of our day. Do you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. And you know, you listen to Bono talk about him. He influenced U2 in such a big way as well. In fact, they ended up going to Berlin to record Achtung Baby because Bowie had recorded in that studio, you know. And isn't it interesting that his album that he released last Friday, Black Star, it's the only album that didn't feature a photograph of him, of all his albums.
Well spotted, yeah.
Yeah, so, and it's just, I mean, nobody knew he was in health, you know. I mean, there was rumours of him going to tour again and everything else, and, you know, it was just phenomenal. It was just a big shock this morning, I have to say, Joe.
Yeah, I'm just, and Billy, the way people are now saying that the album, which was released on Friday, which was his 69th birthday, and then he dies, well, we presume he died yesterday, Sunday, in New York. He dies 2 days later. And then there's this amazing track on it. It's called, isn't it called, Lazarus? And just listen to the lyrics, listeners, and get a sense. He's lying on a bed. I looked at it this morning. He's lying on a bed with his head and his eyes bandaged. Those very distinctive eyes because of what happened when he was a child. He got an eye injury. With somebody who remained and still does, George Underwood, a great guy who remained great friends with him to the end. Here's David Bowie from his album, which was released 2 days before his death.